On this video, I'm going to explore the topic of echolalia. I'll explain what it is and why autistic people do it, including the extraordinary attorney woo. Let's go. Welcome, my friend. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Orion Kelly, that autistic guy, and I'm all about helping you raise your level of understanding, acceptance, and appreciation of autistic people. So, if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, well, you should consider subscribing to the YouTube channel and you'll automatically join this amazing community. Alrighty then. Let's unpack the topic of echolalia. I'm going to explain what it is, provide you some examples, and explore why autistic people do it. Let's start by defining what is echolalia. Well, simply put, echolalia is the repetition of words, phrases, sounds heard by someone. Fun fact, the word echolalia is derived from the Greek roots, where echo means to repeat and lalia means speech. Echolalia is not exclusive to autistic people, though certainly the vast majority of people utilizing echolalia are autistic. People with ADHD and Tourette's use echolalia, among many others. You can find this, it's out there. Other ways of defining echolalia: the unsolicited repetition of utterances made by others. But my absolute favorite, check out this description. Echolalia is the meaningless repetition of another person's spoken words as a symptom of a psychiatric disorder. Wow. Trust me, echolalia is not meaningless. In essence, echolalia is really the repeating of any sound. Now, this is clearly not an exhaustive list of examples. Every autistic person is different. Every autistic person may utilize echolalia in a different way. I'm just going to provide some examples, some more generalized examples of how echolalia may manifest with autistic people. An autistic person may repeat their own words, not yours, their own words, sentences, thoughts, feelings, wants. Another example, not repeating your own words, but repeating the words of others. An autistic person utilizing echolalia may repeat the words of others. Now, I've got an example. If you've checked out that Netflix show, The Extraordinary Attorney Woo, it's actually interesting. There is a scene in court, and there's a few other scenes that are similar, but this is a good example. There's a scene in court where the attorney Woo is making an argument. The judge says something, and attorney Woo repeats what the judge says back, but not in a way that would be standard practice in a courtroom. And a few people react to it. And I think it throws her as well. She kind of reacts, oh, I've said it out loud. She's done it in the episode prior with other conversations. Now, this is a clear example of echolalia for a specific reason. This is a way of processing, of understanding, of acknowledging. If I repeat what you've just told me, and I'm doing that because I think you're important or what you've said is important, if I repeat it, my hope is that I'll process it and understand it and remember it. Another form of echolalia I tend to use as an autistic person is this repeating of a loop of the words of my own or others, but in my head. So I'm not saying it out loud, but there's this loop. I'm hearing, I'm saying it under my breath in my head. I'm saying this loop of a sentence or a word or a sound over and over. Another example of echolalia is the repeating of quotes or phrases or sounds from movies and TV shows. I do this a lot, and they're not often in context. And also, I find the quotes, maybe you can relate, maybe you can't, the quotes that I tend to use are from not recent movies or TV shows. They're from kind of movies and TV shows that impacted me growing up, that are still stuck in my head, right? So it doesn't often come across topical, but that's not what it's for. I'm not trying to do humor or be topical. I'm using it through echolalia for many different reasons, from processing to soothing to regulation. Repeating the sounds of things in the outside world. And I'm talking anything. Repeating the sounds of nature, the sounds of animals, sounds of cars, people, mobile phones. I'm pretty sure this is one of the more irritating things I can do around my wife, but I find when a mobile phone goes off, when it rings, I almost always make the noise. If it's a text tone or a phone call tone, it'll finish. And then, out of nowhere, I'll be like, there's a ringtone for you. I just invented that one. Enjoy. Trademarked, copyright. Singing the same line of a song, or even just the same song, is definitely another way autistic people utilize echolalia. And you know how you listen to a favorite song and it gets stuck in your head? That's different, right? I mean, the catchy songs are catchy songs. But I'm talking about something a bit more specific, which is maybe in a sign of distress, or you're feel dysregulated, where you want to process or regulate or soothe, you tend to start humming or singing a song or a line. I promise you, I do this all the time. And it's hard to pick. I don't know what song's going to come up. It is really odd. They're not earworm songs from the radio. I mean, we're talking like, I don't know, sometimes they're songs from the soundtrack to the Rocky movies. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. This one, you might think, oh, wow. Another sign of echolalia is making noises like beatboxing or humming or clearing your throat. I guess making kind of vocalizing noises. I'm a throat clearer. In fact, a lot of times I'll do it when I don't need to clear my throat. But it's like there's a rhythm to it, like, and there's a number to it. Every time I do it, I doubt it's any different. Even my face moves a certain way. It's funny, my throat doesn't need to be cleared, but I must be getting dysregulated or stressed, and I tend to do that more. It's interesting. Another sign. Before we move on to why we do it, one more example is using your body to make noises. Obvious examples, clapping, or patting, or slapping. Tapping, I know, is a big thing in the mental health field. Like there's a tapping thing you can do. Anyway, so, okay, yeah, cool, that's cool. I'm not talking about that though, but I'm saying using your body to make types of noises and feelings and percussion and that kind of stuff. That's another example. Now at this point, you may be asking, okay, I get what it is and there's some examples, cool, but why? Why on God's name are you doing that? Why are you making those noises and repeating those words? What is the deal? Okay, let's talk about the why. Again, all autistic people are individuals and are different. We have different challenges and strengths, different support and care needs, and they fluctuate. So I can only ever provide you with generalized reasons, generalized examples, and also drawing on my own lived experiences. Let's use Attorney Wu again. In my opinion, just my own personal thoughts and impression from the first case one, the first episode, you hear her repeat the words of a few people. And it doesn't happen once, it happens quite a few times. And I think the last time is in court near the end. Judge says something, she repeats it back. Okay, so clear example. Why is she doing that? Not to get in trouble, not to be embarrassing or embarrassed. She's doing that to process, to hear. This is important information. I know this is. You better process it. Say it back. You say it to me, I'll say it back. Now, of course, it makes no sense to the person that said it. What are you telling? What are you saying? What are you repeating? What are you, a parrot? That's not going to help an autistic person. They're not a parrot. They're a person, right? Obviously. What are you, a pirate? The repeating of the words of others helps process, understand, learn, and remember the important thing that was being conveyed by those words. Autistic kids actually use echolalia to learn how to speak. In addition to that, they're repeating words to improve their speech. In the repeating of words, their language improves. And again, saying it out loud might be strange to some people. Why do you keep repeating what I'm saying? It's not anything you should be taking personally. It's not an insult. It's a processing, learning, understanding tool. I also reckon people that are autistic or have ADHD actually use echolalia to communicate, to interact with people. In fact, echolalia is communication for autistic people. It's often taken the wrong way. It's not communication, it's you being rude or, what are you, mocking me? I'll use echolalia, I might repeat the words of someone that, what are you, mocking me? No, I'm not mocking you. Everyone's so defensive. So echolalia is communication for autistic people. Here's a personal example from me and my own experiences as a husband and a father. So let's say I want a hot chocolate. I decide I'm sitting on the couch at night, kids have finally gone to sleep, so it must be about 1 a.m, and oh geez, I wouldn't want a hot chocolate, right? Okay. I'll ask for one by asking my wife hey, do you want a hot chocolate? Instead of saying, I'm having a hot chocolate, I'm going to make a hot chocolate. I've learnt the best way to say it through my own experiences is, do you want a hot chocolate? That's my way of asking or telling or conveying, I want a hot chocolate. That's how I remember people offering things in the past. Also, echolalia, or repeating phrases or scripts, using scripts to communicate, can be really effective and really useful for autistic people when communication simply becomes too stressful. In other words, the situation you found yourself in makes it too hard to come up with your own words or try to make any sense of what you're trying to say. So you revert to phrases or scripts. An example of that could actually be as simple as something that your partner or your parent or your friend would say in a similar situation, right? If you meet someone, you might be observing, or they always say, how are you? Or they always say, I'm not bad, how are you? Right? Okay, so you will, even though it sounds like it might be your own words, you're reverting to what you're supposed to do in those situations. For those with autistic kids, maybe you have a partner who's autistic, you might not have picked up on this, but echolalia can be actually used as self-talk in difficult or confronting situations. Okay, so what I'm saying is you're repeating or using the words of others you may have heard from a person or from a movie or a TV show to yourself. You're self-talking the words of others in a situation that you somehow feel you need them. A great example is my autistic son. Sometimes at school or even at home, when there's a situation that becomes tricky or hard, he will use or say to himself the words of encouragement from his teachers or from myself and my wife. Maybe his teacher has told him a specific line of encouragement. I always like to say, you're good at hard things. You're really good at doing hard things. But see, he's using those as self-talk in a positive way to overcome stressful or confronting situations. That's echolalia, because you're repeating words you heard in the past. Another example of echolalia, and this is big in my house with two young boys, is using echolalia to interact with someone who you're not currently interacting with. Huh? What's that to me? What are you talking about? What? Okay, here's an example. Let's say my boys want to play a game, but I'm not in the room they're in, and the game involves me. Rather than saying, hey, Dad, can we play the ambulance game? My son from another room may start yelling out phrases or sounds linked to the game they want to play with me. They're not even interacting with me. They might just go, emergency, emergency, doctor, doctor, emergency, emergency, right? I hear that, and that's my cue that they want to play that game. But they've started that by using sounds, phrases, words linked to that game or action or interaction. This works for adults too, as a way of telling you that's what they want to do without actually even interacting with you or even coming into the same room as you. We've already talked about the use of echolalia by repeating someone's words to process, to learn. But you know what though? Another really simple example is repeating the words of others just to acknowledge that you've heard them. Because as autistic people, we can come across to some people who don't understand where we're coming from as disinterested because there's no eye contact or it's intermittent or we don't seem interested. We seem disengaged or we're stimming or we look agitated. Or it's not a stereotypical way of having a conversation. So sometimes we repeat the words just to acknowledge, yep, we hear you. And as annoying as some forms of echolalia can be, just remember this, okay? It's also used, echolalia, also used to stim, to regulate, to self-soothe. And I reckon, well, certainly in my own personal experiences, sounds from your mouth or your body are probably the most effective stims available. So I get it. Others can find echolalia really irritating. But just keep in mind and just try to understand and appreciate autistic people can find the use of echolalia really comforting and soothing. There are genuine reasons for this. I know it can come across sometimes as weird and wacky and crazy and annoying and agitating, but it's about learning and processing and interacting and communicating and conveying thoughts and feelings and wants and about soothing and regulating. There can't be anything more critical in an autistic person's life than these things. So echolalia plays a really critical part in the life of an autistic person. I hope my own personal lived experiences as an autistic person who uses echolalia, who infuriates and irritates my friends and family with echolalia, and our autistic son who also is a big fan of echolalia. I hope in giving you those experiences and insights helps you increase your level of understanding, acceptance, and appreciation of the autistic community? If it has, I'd be delighted if you'd subscribe to the YouTube channel and share the video with your family and friends so we can reach more people. Until my next video, thank you so much for your support, and we'll talk soon.